That day should have been the proudest day of my life. My daughter, Cathy, scored 1570 on her SAT, Harvard or Cambridge. The world was wide open for her. Alex, my husband, even took time off work specifically to take her out for a celebration. But that evening, one phone call shattered everything. Cassie's voice was trembling. She said her father left her alone on the side of a highway. He had taken a call from some woman, stopped the car, said nothing, and told her to get out. She didn't know what to do. I told her to walk away from the speeding cars to stay safe. But the next second, a violent crash exploded through the phone. My heart froze. My daughter had been hit. By the time I reached the hospital, she was already in the ICU. The doctors said her head injury was critical, and only one surgeon in the entire city could save her life, the deputy director of Central Hospital, Dr. Dawson. My husband. My hands shook as I called him again and again. After more than 10 calls, he finally answered. I could barely breathe as I told him Cassie was in an accident. He needed to come now. But all I heard was his cold, distant voice. He accused me of lying, said I made all this up just to see him. My chest tightened, and then another voice came through the phone, a woman's voice, soft, intimate. It's Jessica, his first love. I heard her whisper Alex's name. Then he hung up. When I called again, his phone was already off. My daughter's vital signs kept falling in the ICU, lower and lower. I waited outside, pacing the hallway, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. After 30 agonizing minutes, the attending finally came out. Cathy needed surgery. Right now, or she wouldn't make it. But in the entire city, only one surgeon had the skill to save her, Alex. And he was gone. Phone off. Out of reach, and I didn't even have Jessica's number. Panic closed around my throat. I tore through my phone, searching for any clue, any thread that might lead me to him. Then I found it, Jessica's newest Instagram post. She was leaning on a man's shoulder, the location tag, Central Hospital point 60 kilometers away, and the caption cut straight through me. In my darkest moments, you're always the first to come. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. I grabbed my keys and drove as fast as I could. 2 hours later, I arrived. From a distance, on a bench outside the hospital, I saw Jessica resting her head on Alex's shoulder. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I called his name, but he jolted, startled. But when he looked at me, there was no worry, no guilt, not even surprise. Only irritation, only contempt. I told him Cathy was critical. She needed him, and he had to come with me now. But he said I was causing trouble, being dramatic. He even accused me of following him. Jessica stood up and calmly said her daughter needed Alex, asking me not to make a scene. I repeated myself, again and again. Cathy was in the ICU, barely hanging on. Any second could be her last. But to him, my words meant nothing. He said he was here to operate on Jessica's child and ordered me to stop. Then he turned and headed for the operating room. I reached out to stop him, but Jessica shoved me. Hard. My voice cracked as I screamed, Alex, she's your daughter, your own child. Please, go back and save her. But he never turned around. He just walked away, step by step, until the doors closed behind him. And there, on that cold hospital floor, my body finally gave out. My world went dark, and I collapsed. When I woke up, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. My head was spinning, but one thought cut through everything. My daughter was still in the ICU, still fighting for her life. I stumbled out of the room. Then I saw Alex in the ward across the hall, his expression gentle. The girl in the bed looked up at him and called out sweetly, Uncle Dawson. Jessica stood beside them, satisfied, like they were the real family. Alex touched the child's forehead and told her to rest well. With the last bit of hope I had left, I walked over and begged him to come back with me. But Jessica grabbed his hand first, playing helpless, saying she wanted him to stay a few more days in case her daughter had complications. A nurse nearby finally spoke up. Her child only had mild meningitis. She didn't need a specialist at all. But Alex didn't hear a word. Not one. In his eyes, Jessica needed him, and I was just the troublemaker. When I raised my voice and told him her daughter was waiting for him, Jessica cut in, calling me jealous, saying I was cursing my own child. Alex's face turned cold. He told me to go back, and then my phone rang. Cathy's doctor. I put the call on speaker, wanting Alex to hear it himself. The doctor's voice was heavy, breaking. Mrs. Dawson, please come back to the hospital. It may be your daughter's last moment. As soon as he finished, Jessica let out a mocking laugh. accusing me of hiring actors to put on a show. Alex stared at me with disgust, told me to get out. He didn't believe me. He didn't believe our daughter was dying. My voice cracked as I said the last thing I could. Alex, you killed our daughter. By the time I got back to the hospital, it was too late. Cathy had already been taken to the morgue. I never saw her alive again. I held her cold, lifeless body and screamed until my throat tore apart, until I felt my heart being carved open piece by piece. At her funeral, I held her urn like it was the last piece of her left in this world. She could have gone to her dream school. She could have had a future full of light. But now, all of it was locked inside that small box. I shut myself in her room for 3 days, touching her books, her drawings, every piece of her life, each one cutting me open like a blade. On the 3rd day, Alex finally called. No concern, no guilt, no mention of Cathy at all. Just his commanding voice. My mother wants to hold a school entry banquet for Cathy. I held the urn tighter, knuckles turning white, and I forced out one word, okay. I once truly loved Alex. We met on a scorching summer day, and he saved me when I collapsed from the heat. From that moment on, I gave my whole life to him. After we married, he worked nonstop and I held the family together. I thought marriage meant supporting each other, until the day I found that photo of him and Jessica. He said it was the past and tore it up in front of me. I believed him. But 3 years ago, after Jessica's divorce, everything changed. He gave her money, comforted her, and every emergency surgery, every business trip, became an excuse to be with her. What broke me was Cathy's coming-of-age ceremony. He promised he'd be there, then claimed he had an emergency surgery. Later I learned Jessica had only hurt her leg, a tiny wound from scissors. In that moment, I finally understood. Jessica's smallest injury meant more to him than everything my daughter and I ever were. At the school entry banquet, I came home, carrying my daughter's urn. Relatives kept praising Alex for having such an amazing daughter. They had no idea that amazing daughter was already gone. Alex was full of pride and used the moment to show off. I saw Jessica there too. I stood in a corner, watching her boast about Alex's great genes and perfect parenting, as if the whole family, the whole celebration, had nothing to do with me, his actual wife. Alex finally noticed me and scolded me for being late. He couldn't find Cathy and demanded to know where she was. His mother, Lydia, grabbed my hand, panicked and confused. My lips went pale. My hands trembled. My throat felt blocked. I couldn't say a word. Jessica walked over with her wine, acting gentle, acting gracious. Everyone kept urging, asking, waiting, longing for Cathy to appear. I put down my bag, slowly reached inside, and took out the black urn. I placed it in the center of the table, right in front of Cathy's portrait. She's here, I said. The noise stopped the moment I set that white urn on the table. Everyone froze. They decided I must be making a joke. Alex was the first to rush over, yelling so loudly my ears rang. Are you out of your mind? Today is our daughter's banquet. You bring an urn here to curse her? He called me unfit to be a mother, and the relatives echoed him, saying I was unreasonable, disrespectful, ruining the event. Lydia, my mother-in-law, went pale, thinking I was attacking her. Elena, you brought an urn here. Are you trying to kill me with anger? I tried desperately to make them believe the truth. I pointed at the urn, my voice shaking beyond control. She's right here. This is Cathy. Alex snapped. He slapped me across the face. Have you caused enough trouble? He grabbed my wrist painfully tight and demanded, where is our daughter? Where is she? Lydia begged me to stop making a scene, as if I was some unreasonable villain. I broke down completely, nearly falling to my knees. Mom, this really is Cathy. But they couldn't hear me. Alex couldn't contact Cathy by phone. He immediately accused me. Did you tell her to hide so I'd be embarrassed today? I knew nothing I said would matter anymore. So I just handed him my phone and sent him the 2 photos. The first was the critical condition notice and the death certificate. The second was Cathy lying in the morgue. The anger in the room turned to absolute silence. Alex collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, his face twisted in disbelief. He called the hospital to confirm, and the answer he got was cold and final. Yes. In that moment, he finally believed. And I was already crying too hard to speak. The relatives looked devastated. Lydia trembled violently, grabbing my hand like I was a murderer. I choked on my tears, forcing out the words I had held back for far too long. Alex killed Cathy. Then I told them everything. How he abandoned her on the highway. How the fatal crash happened. How her vital signs kept dropping in the ICU. How the doctors begged us to hurry. How I called him dozens of times and no one answered. How he turned off his phone while staying with Jessica and her daughter. Every detail was a blade, cutting through every heart in that room. When Lydia heard the most damning part, she slapped Alex. "You monster. You killed your own daughter." The banquet hall was filled with nothing but crying, shouting, and suffocating regret. I stood at the center of the chaos, hollowed out, my chest so tight I couldn't even make a sound, and Alex, finally realizing what he had done, fell to his knees. He tried to say I'm sorry, but those two words were as light as dust, never enough to cover the sin he'd committed. Guilt, regret, madness, all of it crushing him until he could barely breathe. And right at that moment, Jessica's daughter showed up with that innocent smile. Absurd. Laughable. Disgusting. Alex's face froze on the spot, like his guilt had just been exposed in front of everyone. The next second, he shoved Lily so hard she landed on the floor. Jessica screamed and rushed in to protect her daughter. Only then did the relatives finally understand, their shock turning instantly into anger. Lydia's voice trembled. Who are they? I clenched my jaw and finally said the truth I had held back for far too long. Alex's mistress. And her daughter. He left his own child to die, and went to save theirs. Someone shouted, "Get them." Someone grabbed Jessica's hair. Someone kicked Lily. Glasses shattered across the floor, and screams and sobs tangled into chaos. Jessica clutched Lily, begging. But Alex, he didn't look at them even once. He sat on the floor holding the urn, shaking uncontrollably. He looked like he'd fallen into an endless pit, empty, hollow, completely broken. When we got home, the night was as silent as a coffin. Alex sat in Cathy's room all night, the lamp casting a dead, ghostly light on his face. He covered his face, his shoulders shaking violently. While sorting through Cathy's things, he opened a drawer and found a gift box. The moment he lifted the lid, he collapsed to his knees. Inside was a massage device and a small blue handwritten card. Cathy had prepared it as his Father's Day gift. The soft, childish handwriting on the blue card had become her farewell. Alex held the card and cried until his throat was raw. Every trophy was a reminder that he had destroyed the future of a child. Her desk was still covered with her half-finished planner, her favorite books, and that bright, happy family photo. He watched them on a loop. In the video, Cathy clung to his neck, her eyes shining. "Dad, I want to be a doctor just like you." She was full of dreams. "You were my pride. And when I'm grown, I want to be yours." I dragged my suitcase into the living room. Alex looked up, eyes swollen and red. I set the divorce papers on the table, my voice cold and steady. "If you agree, meet me at City Hall." He says he won't divorce me. He loves me and cannot bear to lose me. But the moment his hands touched my skin, all I felt was disgust. I pushed him off without hesitation. He panicked. He kept repeating that he hadn't betrayed me, that he'd already lost our daughter and couldn't bear to lose me too. Back then, when I was crying in the hospital, he hung up on me. When I begged him to come back, he chose Jessica's child instead. When I collapsed on the floor, he was comforting another woman. I told him, the moment our daughter died, I let go of him too. He suddenly knelt before me, grabbed my hand. He said our vows still mattered, that we were meant to grow old together. But the first person who broke those vows was him. My voice was almost emotionless. "Our marriage ended the moment you turned your back and chose Jessica." His eyes were red as he said, "Our daughter is gone. If you leave too, I won't survive." But in my mind, one furious voice was screaming, "What right do you have to say our daughter is gone? Why is she gone?" No, none of that. It was you. You left her standing. You refused. You chose. Those scenes hit me all at once. Tears burned, my voice shaking. The person who killed her was you. How could I ever live with a murderer? Alex is speechless, drained. Like someone pulled the soul out of him. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. Just as I stepped out, his voice cracked. Where is our daughter's urn?" I froze for a second, then answered coldly. "And you think you deserve to see her?" He cried in that empty house like he was punishing himself. But that wasn't what I wanted. I just wanted to leave. As I walked downstairs, the wind rushed through the stairwell. In that moment, I thought I heard Cathy whisper my name. I spun around, but there was no one. She was gone, truly gone. And in that moment, I finally understood. I wasn't walking away from a marriage. I was crawling out of the ruins it left behind. A week later, we finalized the divorce. No shouting, no tears, just a signature, splitting a 20-year marriage into two separate worlds. After the divorce, I quit my job. I no longer planned for anyone's future. I only wanted to finish the journey my daughter never got to take. I took her urn and started a trip meant only for the two of us. Gold Coast. She once told me it had the gentlest sunrise in the world. That morning, I held her urn as the sun came up, and the golden light fell across it, as if it were the first hope lit just for her. Mount Fuji. It took me 3 hours to reach the viewpoint. The wind pushed hard against me, and I held her tight, terrified of losing her again. Below us, the clouds surged and drifted. I whispered, "Cathy, this is the world you wanted to see." Cathy loved documentaries. Always said she wanted to see a real stampede someday. So I saw it for her, heard it for her, and cried for her. After completing everything, I went back to Maplewood. I buried her in the cemetery deep in those woods. Sunlight was soft there. The wind moved lightly through the trees. Just like her, I became a caretaker. The cemetery director stared at my resume for a long time. He said someone with my background should be in a top company. I simply answered, "I just want to stay close to my daughter." Life grew simple. I cleaned her headstone every day, pulled weeds, told her small stories. Sometimes I cooked her favorite dishes and left them at her grave. Day after day, month after month, half a year passed. Outside, the world was loud and restless, but the world my daughter and I shared was quiet. Until one day, my mother-in-law called. The wind was strong, and the ground was covered in fallen maple leaves. On the phone, Lydia was crying so hard she could barely speak. She said Alex was getting worse. His hands shook. His mind wandered. Therapy wasn't helping. He was forced to take leave. Regret followed him like a nightmare, waking him up every night, leaving him dazed during the day. She choked through her tears as she begged me, "For the sake of your marriage, please go comfort him." I held the phone, my hand cold as ice, and I said softly, "I'm sorry. I'm still trapped in the pain of losing my daughter. I can't get out." Then I hung up. The wind kept blowing. The leaves kept falling. The world went on, and I could only stay beside my daughter's name. In the 2 months after the divorce, Alex completely unraveled. The first message he sent was painfully serious. "Elena, meet me at City Hall at 8 a.m. Once we sign, I'll call you my wife again. I'll love you forever." As if he were making a honeymoon vow. As if nothing had ever happened. At 10 p.m., he sent another, "I'll come pick you up at 7 in the morning and take you back to our love nest." The sweetness was sickening, like he was living in his own fantasy. An hour later, the third message came. "Honey, where are you? I brought you home. Why aren't you in the new house?" I froze. There was a lost, delusional tone in every word that made my spine go cold. He had snapped. Completely. Not long after, Lydia called. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "Elena, Alex isn't well. He thinks you two are still on your honeymoon. He's been knocking on doors looking for you, thinking you ran away. Please, please come see him." I closed my eyes. All I could see was Cathy being pushed into the cremation chamber. "I'm not a doctor," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Even if I go back, I can't save him." Lydia kept choking through her tears. "Please, for the sake of 20 years of marriage." I took a long breath. My voice turned cold as steel. "Lydia, I took care of him for 20 years, but we're divorced now. I have no obligation to take care of him anymore. You'd really let him turn into a madman? Let him?" There was only one answer in my heart. From the moment Cathy died, whether Alex lives, dies, loses his mind, none of it has anything to do with me. I hung up immediately. In the days that followed, Alex lost his grip on reality completely. He texted every day, called at 3 in the morning, crying that he couldn't find me anywhere in the house. He searched desperately for the wife who had gone missing, but that wife died the day he hung up the phone on me. In the end, I blocked him without hesitation. 3 months later, I ran into Alex at the cemetery. He was standing in front of our daughter's grave, his back hunched, thin as a shadow, eyes sunken, hair already streaked with gray, like something had eaten him hollow. It took me a few seconds to even recognize him. When he looked up and saw me, his lips trembled violently, and tears fell instantly. "Claire," he said it like it drained the last of his strength. For a moment, he was lucid, But I felt nothing. I walked over, my voice cold. How did you find this place? In front of the grave were Cathy's favorite dishes, and a bouquet of baby's breath, carefully placed. Restrained, desperate. All I said was, now that you've seen her, you can go. He clutched his chest as if stabbed, then began muttering, that without me, every day was hell. That he wanted us back. Wanted me home. That he hurt. He regretted that he waited for me every day. That I was the love of his life. To me, it was nothing but absurd. What's gone can't come back. Even if it does, it's never the same. I told him, from now on, there is no us. Don't come here again. Don't step foot in this place. My daughter rests here. You'll only disturb her pain. He was the one who abandoned her on the highway. He was the one who walked away while she was dying. I turned and walked off. Behind me came the sound of him breaking apart, a raw, guttural cry that seemed to shake the air itself. I didn't look back. He didn't deserve it. Half a year has passed. He never came to the cemetery again. Until one day, a storm pounding outside my phone rang. She told me he'd gotten into a car accident while trying to save a girl. Massive blood loss. The doctors said there was nothing more they could do. On the other end of the phone, I heard a voice so weak it barely existed. Elena, I love you so much. I miss you. It was so faint, like it could disappear with the wind. I finally softened. I decided to see him one last time. I hadn't been back in over a year. When I stepped into that house again, I almost forgot how to breathe. Alex lay on the bed, his body covered in brutal stitches, his face swollen beyond recognition. The moment he saw me, tears slipped down his face. Elena, is it really you? Or am I imagining you at the end? I sat beside him and whispered, it's me. His consciousness flickered, like a light about to burn out. He murmured that he had saved our daughter, that he had made things right. I told him coldly, he didn't save Cathy. She'd been gone for more than a year. He said no, said he remembered saving her, said he thought about making it up to her every day. Then he asked, I'm dying. Will you forgive me? I was silent for a long time. Then I shook my head. I won't forgive you. He closed his eyes and let out a bitter smile, as if passing judgment on himself. He said, I don't deserve forgiveness. I once had a happy family, and I destroyed it with my own hands. Then, using the last of his strength, he held my hand. Elena, when I'm gone, let me be buried beside our daughter. Please? Without hesitation, I answered, no. He froze, pain and confusion flooding his face. But I didn't look away. It was his burden to carry. Soon after, his grip loosened, his chest rose a few small times, and then stopped. In the moment he died, full of regret, I did not shed a single tear. The most terrifying thing in life is not death, but regret that arrives far too late.